We are live in the live stream. My phone is crooked because it always is. But that's okay. I haven't drinking enough water today, but that's also okay. We'll be fine. Who needs water? That's the joke. Everybody needs water. Go drink water, please. You probably haven't, so this is probably a good reminder for you to drink water and stuff. It's good for you. Lights are bright. How do I? That's a little bit better. Staring at bright screen. I have no accessibility. One of these days I'll have to show you guys my setup that I do when I do these lives, because it's better than it used to be. But that's not saying much because it's never really been all that great. It is officially October. That's cool. That's exciting. October is my favorite month of the year. Halloween is my favorite time of year. Not just a day, not just, a couple days. It's a whole season, including a preseason through the summer months. I am a huge Halloween person. And now I've recently purchased enough Halloween shirts to have one for like every day of the week going forward. So I can just like always have Halloween shirts, even during Christmas, and like annoy everyone. It's like Halloween's over, it's Christmas time. That's great, and I love Christmas, but Halloween shirt. So I have that going for me. That's fun. It's also the time of year where I see different Christians and Christian groups talking about, oh, this is Satan's holiday. The Bible doesn't condone this. It's whatever. People like to have fun. That's really what Halloween is. It's fun. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's scary for things that don't actually have to be like scary. It's not like you might lose your home this week because you can't pay your bills, or there's someone in your house. It's like I'm gonna go to a haunted house attraction, and someone who I know is not actually gonna harm me is gonna jump out and scare me, and it's fun. It's when you can take scary stuff and make it fun. And I just love the overall vibe of Halloween. It is my favorite time of year. Now, don't get me wrong. I am one of those people where on November 3rd, 4th, 5th, I will be listening to Christmas music. That's just me. I love Christmas too. And that starts like right after Halloween. But today, on the topic, I actually emailed some screenshots of comments that I've taken, because my phone is filled with screenshots of comment sections. Absolutely, might have to show screenshots of that one day. Just filled with different comments that I might want to respond to in a video, that say, oh, you need to look up this argument. I haven't heard that argument. Let me take a screenshot so I can remember and look it up later. Stuff like that. And I don't always get to all of them, especially because a lot of my videos, I've been doing more long form videos lately, like 5-10 minutes, which I like, but I can't post that on every single platform. But I can't make short videos. Like if I want to post on all platforms, I got to make like the 60-second videos, and a lot of these aren't 60-second comments. So some of these that I'm gonna read might be, some might not be, but I just kind of, I don't know. I would like to start responding to comments in my lives, without me just scrolling through the comment sections of the various platforms that I have open, because for one, the computer's too far away and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it anyway. And two, it doesn't get us anywhere. It just doesn't get us anywhere. So I went and sent a few screenshots of comments. Not really anything in particular. I started with my most recent screenshot and went backwards from there. Just two comments that I've taken screenshots of and then I want to respond to. So without further ado, I think, God, it's so small, but at least I'm not searching. I just gotta like squint and look at it. Science is, I'm not on screen, I apologize. Science is subjective and wrong quite a bit, with people claiming science to be right even when it's wrong. Science is not known to allow other scientists that don't agree with them to speak or participate. It's one of those, not to be a jerk, but tell me that you don't understand how science works without telling me that you don't understand how science works. Because here's how science works. People who disagree are allowed to participate. They're encouraged to participate. Because if people who are trying to figure out what's actually real aren't correct, they tend to like to be corrected. So it's always welcome to have new ideas and new experiments and new studies, just so long as they're credible. And it's not just, oh, this study disagrees with the scientific consensus, therefore we have to ignore it. No, if it's a well done study, then it's something that can be taken into account. And it's always changing. It is always changing because science is about finding the answers, constantly searching for the answers. And the explanations that it has for things isn't necessarily this is how this works and that's a fact. It's this is the best explanation that we have for this topic at this time. Come back in X amount of years and we might have a hopefully better understanding of this particular topic. That's how science works. It does change. It's not some doctrine written in a book that we have to follow 2,000 years later. It's subject to revision when people realize they're wrong. And that comes with more studies and more research and more data and more, this, that, and that. So, yeah, science does change. And sometimes one group says something about science and another group says something about science because we're humans. We're just trying to figure stuff out. And we don't always get it right. But that's why having an open mind and continuing to look into things and continuing to be open to change and continuing to be open to the possibility that we could be wrong and open to receiving correction when we are wrong is so important, and it's so crucial to the scientific process and figuring out how everything works, what's going on in the world. I can talk about correlation between human design, time, heavens, and scripture. Would you like to know that connection? Why are there 52 weeks in a year? Why are there 52 weeks in a year? Why are there 52 weeks in a year? I'll let you go ahead and give your thing. And while you do that, I'm going to move on to the next one. That I have to get close to the camera again. We have 5 fingers and 2 hands. Well, that's cute. So, did God do that on purpose? Is that your argument? Because, I mean, like, I don't know, man. There's only so many different numbers. Like, different, like, single numbers. Like, not even talking about, like, 1 through 1,000. Different numbers. It's 0 through 9 are the different numbers. And those numbers share numbers with a lot of other things. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a connection or a correlation. That just, I don't know, that's just going to kind of happen sometimes. However, 2 hands and 10 fingers gives return date for the Son of Man. 2 hands and 10 fingers gives a return date for the Son of Man. So you know the day that the Son of Man is supposed to return that we're not supposed to know? The only evidence that will convince is direct first-hand experience or spiritual awakening. The fact that there is a path or a way to go about it can be considered evidence, but few are willing to pay the price. Yes, people have come up with different methods or paths to spiritual enlightenment, spiritual awakening, spiritual goodness, righteousness, whatever you want to call it, depending on what religion, even some that have long been forgotten. That doesn't necessarily mean there's anything spiritual going around. Now, some of these paths, have things that can feel good, that can feel calming, that can maybe make you happy. For example, I use some Buddhist teachings and beliefs to help me with my anxiety and help me sleep at night. So some can make you feel good, and have some kind of what you might consider to be a spiritual experience. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's actually what's going on. Also, personal experience just isn't great Because not only do you not know who all you can trust, but humans feel things. You know, humans feel things and attribute them to other things. There are people who are following the path of Christianity who can feel like it's the right path. They feel it, they know it's the right path. There are people who are following the path of Islam who will say the same thing. People who are following the path of Hinduism who will say the same thing. You know, it's all these people praying to different gods and following different paths, and some of them contradicting and saying, it's right because I feel it, or just because it's something that makes you feel good. Or I used to, one of my friends once argued that they know that the path of Christianity is right because whenever they follow Christian teachings, it feels good inside. They feel like they're getting closer to a God. Yeah, because you're told that that's what's supposed to happen. You're told that if you do these things, then you're doing life right. So you're going to get a little bit of psychological and emotional gratification for doing those things on that list because you think that it's doing something else, even if it's not. It's the brain, the mind is a very tricky, complex thing. So when you get into the field of what people experience, what people feel, what it gets, there's so much there that can explain so much that doesn't necessarily require anything spiritual or supernatural. 28 hours in a day because excluding thumbs, 24 joints on fingers, 28 days in February because 28 bones on fingers. Why'd you have to exclude the thumbs, though? So Mark and Matthew refer to, Matthew 2:10, the return of star, which is constellation Aquarius, which is confirmed in Luke. I didn't know they named a specific constellation in the Bible. That's interesting. Supreme deity of all those religions is constellation Aquarius. Okay, so constellation Aquarius is coming back. That's the supreme deity of all those religions is constellation Aquarius. Okay, go on. And I will also go on. What do I have here? When I often talk about how Jesus' sacrifice isn't actually a sacrifice. Is, you know, most people believe that he is God or the Son of God or whatever, but think of God living infinitely in heaven, this realm of eternal bliss, comes down for about 30 years, has a decent 30 years. It wasn't the worst. Got pretty rocky towards the end. Got very rocky the last couple of days. And I'm not, you know, not like trying to paint lightly the suffering that Jesus went through, assuming he went through that. But then, you know, he suffered and died for our sins. And, you know, that's great. Except he then got back up a couple days later like nothing had happened and was just walking around, let somebody stick their fingers in his wounds like it was a party trick, and then he skipped back up to heaven and continued living in the realm of eternal bliss. He's fine. Like what's 30 years to an infinite being? What's a day or two of horrific suffering to an infinite being? You know, it's like Tyra Banks putting on, you know, messy clothes and sleeping on our park bench to experience homelessness. You know, it's just, it doesn't work, especially when you don't die. He's fine. He's back up in heaven. So it really seems like it was much more of a egotistical, look at me, look at how amazing I am display. And I remember this growing up. I went to Catholic school, and there was a crucifix in every single classroom, and teachers would regularly point to this crucifix and be like, look at how he suffered and died, and you're gonna take his name in vain. You're gonna miss mass on a Sunday, and just spit on that sacrifice. How dare! It's guilt tripping and egotistical. It's also just an abusive relationship move. It's like if you're in an abusive relationship and you're thinking about leaving, and then one of your kidneys fails, or both of your kidneys fail, and you need a kidney transplant. And then, so your abusive partner gives you one of their kidneys. Now they can hold that over you. They can say, I gave you a kidney. You can never leave me. Much like Jesus is up here, like, I suffered and died for you. How could you ever live? I don't know. It's just kind of a gross, egotistical, manipulative power move, and I'm just not really here for it. But then this commenter goes on and says, respectfully, do you really not think that the literal creator of the universe, limiting himself to human form for any amount of time, is a sacrifice? Isn't a sacrifice? Do you really think that him being rejected, slandered, tortured, murdered wasn't a sacrifice? Yes, he rose from the dead, but to say it was not a sacrifice seems to underappreciate of what he gave up. He gave up a weekend. He gave up a weekend. That's, and again, the God of the Bible is kind of an egotistical, manipulative a-hole, so yeah, he gives up his weekend to do this whole manipulative power move. Yeah, not really much of a sacrifice. And even if it was a sacrifice, it's like, it's more of a, if I, I'm trying to think of something. It's not letting yourself have something so that you can let your have, not spending money on fast food for a week so that you can buy that new purse or something like that. It's a sacrifice that's going to have more payoff. It's going to have more people looking at him being like, oh, he sacrificed. The more of that manipulation that gets more people in and keeps more people in. And it's going to create a bigger name for himself in the end. So it's a sacrifice, but not in the terms that I would put it. Very selfish, egotistical sacrifice. Ziggy Stardust Starman is first performed. Sea Spirits is older than flesh. That is why fatherhood is a human tradition. This is truth between old world order and new world order. I am the second coming, and if you think that, well, you are in... I am the second coming, and if you think that, well, you are in for sobering humanity, I don't make reflections without my mark of absolute dominion on it. Cool. So what's your religion? Like, what exactly are you advocating for, assuming that you're not just trolling? But even if you are trolling, I'm still interested to see where you're going to go with it. Atheists believe there's no God. If you wanted to be convinced of God, you would seek for possible evidence, not believe there's nothing. Oh, what are you eating? Sorry, I have my cat here. You can probably see her tail. What was I saying? Yes, I do seek evidence quite regularly, and I would actually like there to be a God. I would not be on board with any of the gods of any religions that have been put forth, especially not the Abrahamic ones. But something else out there. I used to think that I had a wonderful relationship with an amazing, loving, kind God. I would love to for that God to be there. I would love for that to be like an actual entity that exists. That would be great. Doesn't really seem like it, but I am open. And whether I like it or not, I want to know what's true. So if there is a God, I want to know that there is a God. So I'm constantly seeking evidence. All the evidence I've just gotten is boo, and I'm sorry. If some evidence is convincing to some people more than others, that is what it is. But I don't find myself convinced by any of the evidence that I have found. But who knows? Who knows? I've only been really making this content and really, really taking this stuff seriously for about 2 years. So like, maybe there are people who've been doing this for longer. There are people who I'm sure have been doing this for longer, and then like after 10 years they found God, and so like maybe come back in 8 years and like maybe I'll have a completely different take. You never really know. You never really know. It is the truth to the simulation that one thinks is reality. Do you have a name for it, though? You gotta name it. You gotta name it. And who's running the simulation? Hello? Space Z, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. It doesn't help that a lot of people like to have fun with their names, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like I can't pronounce normal names, so I definitely can't pronounce other stuff. But space Z, space Z, space Z, space Z, space spicy, spicy. Hi, welcome. It's good to see you. Yes, you got it right. Okay, spacey. Okay, I'll have to remember that. What other comments do we have? Oh, you don't put your faith in religion. Put your faith in God. It's always weird to me when people say this, and especially I interact with Christians more than anything. It's like don't be a Christian, be a follower of Christ. You know, it. Don't be a Christian. Just like read the Bible and what Christ says, and follow that, and believe that, and follow his teachings, and follow the religion that he set up supposedly. Like you can argue like no, this is like the best religion, this is the right religion, but it's still a religion. It's still following some kind of deity, entity, supernatural, whatever, and following the rules that entity's laid forth. That is the source code for the simulation. I think Joseph just kind of like being a fun troll. He's like talking about like the constellation Aquarius being like God and us being a simulation and whatnot. I'm fine to let him run with it. I think it's entertaining. Why isn't my mouse clicking? Oh, you don't see people talk about other religions as much as they talk about Christianity. Look elsewhere. Look elsewhere. Because most of these comments probably come from the United States or some European country or some country where Christianity is the main religion. So it's going to be the main one that's talked about, especially in countries like the US, where there's kind of a push for Christian nationalism. Yeah, it's going to be the one talked about. Islam isn't actively trying to take away people's rights in the US right now. It's not. It just isn't. And especially you have more people in the US who were former Christians speaking out against Christianity. But there are people who speak out against other religions, who speak out against Islam, Hinduism, whatever else have you. They do exist. So it's you're looking at one small little sample size and being like, I can't see, this. Look around. It's not in your little sample size. You gotta be around your sample size. All different ways to describe constellation Aquarius if you used a thesaurus. Just listened to a documentary on Jim Jones. It was interesting. That does sound interesting. It does sound interesting. Oopsie daisies, don't do that. Is that really all my screenshots? Ah, that's fine. Maybe I just went through these screenshots a little too fast. guess I could talk about secular morality for the rest of it, because that's one thing that I didn't get into the last live stream, secular morality. And yes, by the way, I did come completely prepared. Yes, and by that I mean I think I came more prepared than usual. Kind of, not really. I feel like I was a little bit more organized and prepared last live stream, but who needs preparedness? Who needs professionalism? That stuff's overrated. But I talked about a couple of things without God, like how could life come about without a God, intelligent design and whatnot. The point of life without a God in my last live stream, but I didn't get to morality without God. But I did say that I would post a video, and I did. And I even have a little playlist that covers basically intelligent design arguments and cosmological arguments in one video, seeking God in the unknown, and then the point without God and morality without God is my life without God playlist. I'll probably add more to it later on. I also have a playlist that's what's it called? Describing God? Something like that. Something dumb, I'm sure. It's mine, so probably. I don't even have my playlist pulled up. But yeah, describing God or something like that, where it's a playlist of me saying basically the God of the Bible is an egotistical, abusive, manipulative monster who supports things like genocide, slavery, child abuse, and misogyny. And I have videos that go into that. Short form videos, I kind of want to make a long form video going into a little bit more with references from the Bible and everything. That's just a project. I don't have time for stuff. But morality. You want to talk about morality? We can talk about morality without a God. How can we have morals without a God? How did morality evolve without a God? How could that be possible? Well, if you can't prove that your God exists, then for all we know, your God doesn't exist. So morality had to evolve somehow, even without your God. There's also the little objective morality still technically wouldn't exist even if there was a God, because it's his own subjective morality or whatever. I don't usually use that argument, but I think it's a good, cute little one to slide in. But it would seem that morals and ethics and empathy evolved with humanity over time as we learned how to deal with one another, because things work better when we're working together, when we have multiple people working in a civilization with one another, helping each other. It's better to have a group than just one person for a lot of reasons. As far as having more people to look out for you, being able to divvy up tasks more. And when you're in that group, playing nice with the other kids is very, very important. It just does. If you have a group where everyone's just trying to destroy each other, that's not going to be a very healthy civilization, town, whatever you want to call it. And it's probably not going to last, probably. So we create laws and we develop this sense of morality and this sense of ethics and empathy to help us deal with one another, to help us work together. I don't want to be robbed. You probably don't want to be robbed. So wouldn't it make sense if we created and or supported a society where theft was illegal and criminalized? Helps everyone out. We also just understand harm. You know, if I trip and fall down, that kind of hurts. That's kind of a thing. So like, maybe let's not trip people and make other people feel like that, because we know that hurts. Why don't you want to kill people? Because that's it. That's arguably the worst thing you could do to someone, because that just ends the only life that you know that they'll get. So why would you do that to somebody else? If it's don't, it is in a lot of ways treat others how you want to be treated. It's understanding the harm that some things cause and seeking a system that avoids that for everyone involved, including yourself, because that just makes societies run a little bit better. Hello. Sometimes religion seems like a cult, and it seems to actually torture, seems to actually nurture, cult mentality, and has had cult leaders spring up from it. Yeah, the line between religion and cult can get very fuzzy very fast. Um, and the older I get and the more I learn about stuff and the more I get into these religious studies and whatnot, the more fuzzy that line gets. But people also say that all morals come from religions. Like, people say the Ten Commandments are the basis for the laws in the United States. They're not. You know, there's don't take people's lives and don't take people's stuff. That's important, and those are laws that pretty much every civilization has figured out. They're kind of basic. You know, don't hurt each other, don't take each other's stuff. It's pretty basic. And then don't bear false witness, no perjury. That's just good if you want an effective legal system. So that's 3 of the 10. Especially the first 3 or 4, depending on which ones you're looking at, are just worship God, love God, don't take his name in vain, all this stuff. Where does that come in? Anywhere in laws. I don't see that anywhere. We don't have an established state religion that forces us all to follow a God. Obey your parents might be a good idea, depending on your parents. At least starting out, obeying your caretakers, at least to the extent of your need to survive. But legally, it's not really a law or anything. And don't covet. Don't covet. It might be good advice to live by. Don't be jealous of what other people have, but not really a law. Not really a law. And committing adultery, and I know I'm bouncing around. Committing adultery, again, not really a law. So we have like 3 of the 10 commandments as like laws in the U.S. So maybe it's not. And it's also important to mention, people say, well, all cultures get their religion, get their morals, get their laws and stuff from religions. Okay. But can you prove that the God of one of these religions came down and gave morality and laws to that religion, and then those transferred to secular society? Or could it be that we figured out these laws by ourselves, maybe not necessarily through secular society, because I'm sure those people, most of them believed in God or some kind of supernatural stuff. The further back you get, the more the world just seems magical. The sun goes down. Where does it go at night? It's magic, or it's God's. But still figuring stuff out without the direct aid of a God. We take those morals that we've evolved with and figured out as we learned how to deal with one another, plug those into our religions, and then maybe you could argue religions informed secular society now, but you're not starting at square one when you say that it came from religions. And I've gotten a few trats, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ignore you. I was just rambling. Cults will try to separate you from friends and family. This is true. This is one thing that cults do. Hello? You can't be free of religion unless you're free from religion. Yeah, freedom of religion does mean freedom from religion. I don't think I need your branding. I'm not going to read all these out loud. But are you advocating for branded code? I need a barcode branded on me because it's a ritual, and I need it by law to enter a store. I need to prove that I'm not a beast. Beasts denied Jesus appeared to them, also known as witches. The bar comes with a fee of $23. No, I'm sorry, $23,000. There's a lot there. There's a lot that you're talking about there. Another, in my rant, comment that I remember getting is how many scientists throughout history, how many wonderful scientists have been theistic to some degree, have believed in some kind of a god. That's kind of an argument from authority. It's like, look, these really smart people believed in God, therefore that simply must mean that there is a God. It's not really how it works, especially when belief in a God, belief in the supernatural isn't necessarily something that's intelligent based. I think you can believe in a God whether you're smart or not. There's a lot more coming to the belief of a God, or being, raised in a belief in a God, is a lot more complicated than, I'm smart enough to believe, or I'm smart enough to know there's not. It's not about intelligence. It's also worth mentioning that people can do science, to really put it in like dumb terms. Atheists can do science, theists can do science. People can do science. And people can use science, and people can understand and discover things through science. Now, if you want to make the argument that a god came down and gave the scientists secret insight that helped them figure out how, this thing works, that's cool. But we don't really have anything like that. We have scientists figuring things out through more naturalistic means. So this God thing is just kind of a middleman. When it comes to science, so long as you're doing science and doing it correctly, it doesn't matter if you're a theist or an atheist. It's like saying you have brown hair or blonde hair. It doesn't really matter. You can just do science and figure things out. Do science through science. I'm a beast. I have no regard for life. Okay, bye. I will say, because I recently made a video about, what's the point of existing without a god? What's the point? And I made a video going into that. But I was thinking today, if one of the Abrahamic gods was proven to exist, I think I would absolutely fall into despair and think that this life is worthless and nothing, and think it's all pointless and whatnot. Like, just looking at the whole system that the Abrahamic gods, or the Abrahamic God, it's all the same God, they just kind of went different directions with it. Just the system that he set up just makes everything feel completely pointless and worthless and horrible. So I would fall into the type of despair and just what's the pointism typically attributed to atheists. I would fall into that if an Abrahamic God were proven to be real. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I also recently got a comment. I thought this argument had died off, but apparently there are a few people who haven't figured it out yet. That's fine. There's always going to be a few that lag behind. But somebody brought up the whole breathing. When you breathe Yahweh. Apparently when you breathe in, it's Yah. When you exhale, it's Way. Breathe. Breathe. And listen to yourself. And don't try to make sounds as you breathe. Just breathe. Does it sound like you're saying Yahweh? No. Throw that out. It's people who just don't even try. Who just listen to what like their pastors or their favorite Christian YouTubers say and be like, that's amazing, and then they just believe it. And even though it's garbage and there's nothing, I don't know. I was really upset. And I know that's not like I don't think that's a popular theistic argument or anything, and that's not, it's a select few. I'm just, it got me triggered when I saw that somebody posted that. I was like, oh my gosh, we're still going on about that. That's cute. That's great. That's a wonderful. So happy that that's a thing that exists. Trying to think of some of the other comments I've gotten lately. I did recently come across Call Me a Nerd, but the first Star Trek movie explores the whole what's the meaning of life. Yeah, we can figure it out without a god. I did come across a new argument for the existence of God recently that piqued my interest and actually sounded kind of cool at first. And then, as with most arguments for the existence of a God, I thought about it. Now it's not as cool. But this multiverse argument. And this is just one argument, and there are a few different multiverse arguments, so nobody yell at me for like saying the wrong one. There's been a few. Um, it's if the multiverse exists, which is already an if, you got to prove it. But if it exists, and there's infinite possibilities, then in one of those universes there must be an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present God. And if that God exists in one universe, then it must exist in all universes. That's a cute little loophole. Spider-Verse, maybe. That's where God's hiding. Not a bad place to hide. It sounds like a cool place. But first off, it's all possible explanations. First off, you got to prove multiverse. I already said that, but second off, it's all possible explanations. Can you prove that a God is even possible? That could be one of those explanations. I mean, we don't even know if we could prove that a multiverse existed, what a multiverse would look like, what all the possibilities would be. If infinite possibilities, well, what's a possibility? Does that mean that literally anything could be anything, or are we limited to what is strictly possible? So we got to play with that a little bit, and that would come with just more proving things. But also, it sounds clever at first, at least it did to me immediately. Maybe that says more about me than I would like. But when you word it like that, the idea that one of these universes in the multiverse must have a God, therefore it all is, it seems to kind of limit God as an emergent property of a universe instead of a creator of the universe. Like in the multiverse, anything's possible, and there's all these different possibilities. So in one of them, there has to be this God, and therefore he's in all of them. That just kind of sounds like a God that's an emergent property of the universe, just like stars, planets, us, and that he had the power to then expand his reach over the different universes. That if he was an emergent property of one of those universes, he didn't create all of those others, so where did those come from? I don't know. It's just a Rick Sanchez, you know. He's smart and he's got skills and stuff, and he figured out how to travel the multiverse. It's just not the God. That's not the God that people are usually talking about when they think of like God, creator of the universe and whatever else. And then if he did create the multiverse, then we're just back to the same old argument that we're back to. Is, you know, did God create the universe? Did God create the multiverse? It'd be the same. It'd be the exact same argument, I think, just switching words and figuring out if God did. And I'm sure there would be a lot of Kalams and first causes and, you know, God of the gaps arguments mixed in there. So it was one of those, you know, I'm just like, oh, that actually sounds like a good one. And then it's that damn brain, you know, that damn thinking about things and applying logic and reason just tears apart these religious and theistic beliefs. It makes it really, really hard. I'm not even that smart at all. And even I was able to figure that out thinking about it. It's that thinking. It's that damn thinking. You're not supposed to think. Stop thinking. Stop questioning. Stop questioning. Stop thinking. Screw brains, maybe. Oh, this was a comment that upset me. and I recently mentioned, I just mentioned this in the live. The Abrahamic religions. How Judaism, Islam, Christianity all have the same God, the same kind of origin stories. They just kind of go different directions with it, but it's the same God. And someone said, no, they're not. Muslims are not Abrahamic. For a start, they are. Abraham is mentioned in the Quran. So is Jesus is mentioned. The flood is mentioned. Sodom and Gomorrah is mentioned. when you read the Quran, if you want to read the Quran, I would recommend reading the Bible first, because the Quran will just talk about stuff that is laid out in the Bible. And reading the Bible first gives you a good understanding. It's kind of like a sequel, but it doesn't quite like, it tweaks and changes some things. So I'm very hesitant to say it's a sequel, but it is something written after the fact that takes, a lot of the first book into consideration. So it is an Abrahamic religion. And then say Jews and Christians are Abrahamic, but Christians worship three persons of God, while the Jews only worship the one, the Father, as if that's some kind of requirement to have the right religion. It's my religion's right because it's the only one that does this. Good for you. A lot of religions have unique aspects to them. That doesn't get us anywhere. It really doesn't. Reality only exists because there are observers. I hate that argument, but for good reasons. I like it. I do, but I hate it because I hate thinking about it. Because if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a noise? Because the universe had to have existed before humans got here. Before observers got here. So just because we take away the observers, or even if there were never observers, would the universe be here? Who would be here to verify if it was or was not? It's stupid for all the good reasons. It's stupid for all the good reasons. I'm gonna poop on that, but understand that I love thinking about stuff like that. It just gets me thinking, and it hurts my brain. It's a good kind of hate. Who said we are the only observers? This is fair. This is fair. So is that an argument for God? There must be a grand observer? Check it out. There's a sweet book that gives you all these answers, my man. What book is that? Ants are observers. This is true. This is true. I don't like that. I do. I'm going to say a lot of negative things about this, but understand that it comes from love, and I like this, but I don't like it because it gets me to think. All the humans are gone. I've read the gospel. I didn't find it very compelling. So all the humans are gone. And let's say it's like the stereotypical like post-apocalyptic world where like it's just cockroaches. Cockroaches are observing things. But there's no like conscious I'm rocking. There's no like conscious like discussion amongst the cockroaches. But they're still observers. But who would know? There could, if the universe had nothing but like tardigrades, would that be? It's so fun to think. I love like just going down like these like I guess you could say philosophical rabbit holes. I love them so much. I hate them because they bother me, but I love them. It is consciousness. Maybe if ghosts and spirits are real, maybe they'd hypothetically be observers. I mean, if God was real, then that would be like an observer of the whole thing, you know? Spirits. Do you think ghosts and spirits would like you're stuck on Earth. I don't believe in ghosts or anything, but I'm going on a tangent. You're stuck on Earth because you're a ghost and you died and you're like haunting a building. And then the sun goes red giant and scorches the Earth. Are you just still kind of hanging out? There's more, or are there more? Because the sun scorches the Earth, so like everyone's dead. So there's probably like a lot of ghosts. That's so like if we went to a planet that like used to have life on it, but like got hit by a giant meteor and like all the life got wiped out, would the whole planet just be like a haunted wasteland? It's fun to think about. It's fun to think about. It's fun to think about. What if the planet got destroyed completely? Like the planet just got reduced to dust, blown apart. Where do the ghosts go? as a Martian ghost king, are there? Could there have been civilizations and life on Mars or Venus that has since been wiped away and now there's just ghosts? That would be terrifying. That would be actually terrifying. That would. Can you imagine like the rovers up on Mars, just like walking around, all of a sudden it sees like footprints walking towards it? Yeah. I love it, but I hate it. That's interesting. I hope ghosts are real. I love the supernatural. I love spirits and spiritual energy and like the afterlife and all this stuff. I would love for all of it to be real. Was very upset when when I when I came to the conclusion that I don't believe in these things. It was like uh, finding out about Santa Claus when you get older. You know, some of the magic is gone. Some of the magic of Christmas is gone. Some of the magic of the world is gone. Some of the magic of specifically Halloween, my favorite season, is gone now that I don't believe in a lot of this stuff. It's interesting. Why though? I'd love to meet a ghost. Ghosts are scary. Or I guess like some of them. It's weird. I don't know. Maybe maybe I'm like maybe I'm just being like ghostist. Maybe I'm just like discriminating wrongfully against ghosts. Like, oh no, it's a scary ghost, run away, and like they just want to like say hi. Maybe I'm the asshole. Maybe I am the asshole. It's entirely possible. Oh, I didn't even notice someone was in my comments asking if I was looking for a professional YouTube thumbnail designer. That's mean. Oh yeah, they just did it 40 minutes ago. Okay, so I didn't miss it. They just posted it. It's, all of my thumbnails from like my longer length videos and like my lives is just me just with like words next to me. Every single one. Because no, I'm not gonna maybe I do need a professional thumbnail editor. I'm not gonna pay for one. Oh my gosh, I feel really bad. So for the longest time, I would notice that some people's comments didn't go through or got deleted or something. And people are like, why are you deleting my comments? I don't know what's happening. I'm not touching them. I guess YouTube's just like banning them to the shadow realm. I didn't know there was a hold for review section on my until like within the last month. I've been doing this for like 2 years until the last month. I didn't realize because like I know other platforms like TikTok and Instagram have like hidden comments. I think Threads does too, hidden. I thought when YouTube hid something, it just like banished to the shadow realm. No, I have an entire so like all of those comments that like weren't going through, I could have just found them and like pushed them through instead of just being like, listen, man, I'm sorry. Like, because I used to have like actual like debates with people in the comment sections, and I just have to be like, I'm sorry, man, I don't know what's going on. I can't respond to points you're not making. I don't know why YouTube's not letting it through. But I could have just gone here and read it, and it probably would have been fine and unhid it. And I feel bad that I just now. It would make sense. I'm like, I thought surely, and this is a screen that I've been on a number of times, and I'm not smart. I'm just not smart. Uh, and I hope I can be forgiven for that. What's the point of my channel? I'm just a human with some thoughts trying to make the world a better place. That's what I put. That's what I put in all my bios. That's the point. It's impossible to conquer sin without Christ. Okay, we'll prove that sin is a thing that needs to be conquered, and maybe we'll talk about it. I don't know. You can't defeat the Floopians without the Grand Floop. So you gotta believe in the Grand Floop so you can go fight against the Floopians. It's just words and stuff. Some of these got hidden just because they had like um, URLs in them, which is fair. Everything is evidence of God. Look at the trees. Sonic the Hedgehog is the one true God. My God that I often put forth is a giant rainbow space cat pooped us out during the intergalactic laser wars of Stardate E370 in hopes that we would become the next prime species rising out of the ashes of a war-torn multiverse. There is as much evidence for my space cat as there is for any other god or creator. Especially because mine's not really falsifiable. Because there are, once you get into like specific gods, the more specific attributes you give to a certain god, the closer you're able to disprove this god. You know, if this like this god exists and he does this, well, this doesn't happen, so therefore, no. You gotta. I prefer looking at evidence for like God as like a broad term. The more specific we get, the more it kind of falls apart. At least you can actually see Sonic. You can also technically see my rainbow space cat because it's just Nyan Cat. It just stole Nyan Cat and made it into a god. That's all that was. He's got his own video game, his own theme song. He's got, he's got his own everything. A quick glimpse, yeah. Somebody commented on my Morals Without God video. They're like, people are still debating this. This is so dumb. This is something that's already been thing that we can have morals without God. I can't believe people. Yeah, it's still a hot debate. Get over it. What came before God is the real question. Spacey, exactly. Exactly. But nothing came before God. He was infinite. He was always here. Because everything needs a creator except for the creator. And that's another thing. People say like, well, everything that we can see has a creator. Everything that we can see that we can demonstrate has a creator. Because people will say like, well, books. People write books. They don't just appear. Okay. Who writes grass? Well, we don't know. But books have a writer, so therefore grass must have a writer. That's not how it works. And people say, well, we can't replicate some of this real complex stuff like in a lab. Some of this real complex stuff took billions of years to get here and to evolve naturally through means that we don't understand. So forgive us if we can't duplicate it in a lab in just a few years. It's just not how it works. Where is the cloud maker making clouds? Where is the cloud maker making clouds? Or is there no cloud maker? It's just one of those things like, paintings have a painter. Yes, but we can prove that the painting exists. We can prove that the painter exists. We can see the process of painting things. We've never found a painting that hasn't been painted. We can find paintings that we don't know who painted them. But to our knowledge, there's never been a painting that just appeared or evolved, So we can see that whole process. We can't see the whole process when it comes to grass or trees or the universe. So we can't really make conclusions. Especially if your conclusion is going to be something as extraordinary as a god. That's what I ask theists when they say everything has a creator. Well, God's the cloud maker, clearly. Where's the guy who keeps making pollen? I need to have a talk with him, right? It's pretty funny. or mosquitoes. Who made mosquitoes? That guy needs to be fired. Like I think of it as like an office building. Like we have a conference and everyone like gathers together their ideas. It's like I made this bug that it bites people and sucks their blood and gives them a really itchy mark, and it can also spread all kinds of fun diseases that can be harmful to people. It also has a very 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 annoying high pitched buzzing sound that it makes as it's flying around. I don't know. Who let Satan into the boardroom? Is what I want to know. That's that's one of the devil's creations. Frankly, if we're going with the whole, the devil is evil and God is good, and that's Satan's handiwork is the mosquito. That and ticks. Ticks are pretty awful. I hate ticks. They're not my favorite thing. Fleas are pretty awful too. I mean, everyone belongs, in an ecosystem, and you can't just like take out a thing without, taking out the whole thing. And everyone's important and matters to the ecosystem, and I know, but like, I really think we should look into whether or not we really need mosquitoes. Another problem I see theists make is everything is complex, so it needs a creator. Then they then say God is complex but doesn't need a creator. Yeah. It also assumes that complexity means it must have a designer. I don't know. There's arguments that simplicity should be the hallmark. Somebody who knows what they're doing and is going to do the quickest way to get to that design, not some weird, arbitrary, complex, whatever, doesn't look like it knows. Because evolution, I've heard described as a tinkerer. It's just kind of whatever works is what goes. So it just kind of like, is this mutation works better than this, or just kind of plays with it over the course of millions of years. That's where the complexity comes from, because it wasn't a straight fire design. It was just like, now we have an eyeball, more or less. I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, but that's just kind of how it is. It's not, and it's complex doesn't always necessarily mean like good or intelligent either. Just for like our spine. Spine's pretty cool. Does some pretty cool things. It's not designed for a creature who stands upright. It's not. We still have wisdom teeth. That's great. I have to get my wisdom teeth removed at some point. I don't have the money for that, or the time, frankly, and I've been pushing it off for like a year now, and that's gonna be fun. It's causing issues in the back of my mouth, but I just can't do it. It would almost be nice if some intelligent designer, I don't know, didn't give us wisdom teeth, because it just doesn't work. The appendix is great. Because if you believe in evolution, then it's possible that the appendix could have been used for other things in the past. But if we were just made like this, it's just kind of a bomb. It kind of sits there, helps filter some things, but for the most part, it's something we can absolutely live without, and it's something that could spring a leak or burst, causing very serious health issues for you pretty much at any minute. So, yeah, why do we need it? I also like pointing out, I can't see clearly without glasses. I need glasses to see clearly. I also, even when I do see clearly, can't see colors the way everyone else does. I'm colorblind, so my colors are a little off. Also, I like to point out, when I wear glasses, sometimes it's an issue, because glasses need to sit straight on my face. If they're crooked, they kind of mess up my vision. My ears are crooked. The things that my glasses are resting on are crooked. So, intelligence isn't exactly, not exactly the first word that comes to mind. Revelation chapter 21 describes a 2,400 kilometer gold gem pearl starship that Creator Jesus has. So most likely he is in his starship. Why would God need a spaceship? Why would God need a spaceship? And see, now comes the time of the night where I don't really like these lives to go too far past an hour, just for rewatchability purposes. But I enjoy doing them so much that I'm gonna sit here for a while, saying that, hey, I should probably get off soon, without actually getting off soon, because I'm engaging with chat and I'm enjoying myself. To explore? Maybe. Maybe because spaceships are cool. You know what? I'll give you that one. Because spaceships are cool. Not everything has to have a great purpose. Maybe I just like spaceships. That's completely fair. I am not a Christian. I used to be a Christian, if that's what you're asking. Aren't you now? Oh, it's a wonderful story. I was a devout Christian throughout most of my life, dedicated to the Christian God. Thought I had a good relationship with him, thought I was being called to spread his light, love, and message, and I took that mission seriously. And when I was in high school, I took a Christian apologetics class, which, if you don't know, Christian apologetics is basically just defending the faith, debate stage, all that stuff. Maybe you know, maybe you don't, I don't know. Um, and it was in that class that I realized I'm not prepared. I am not equipped with the knowledge and skills required to complete this task. You know, if I'm going to go up on a debate stage against an atheist and I'm going to get absolutely destroyed, and then that's not going to help my case. It's just going to hurt my case. So I dove into my studies a little bit more, studying scripture, church history, arguments for the existence of a God, other religions, their scriptures, their histories, all that stuff, arguments against the existence of a God, scientific explanations for things, all of that stuff. And a lot of the times, and this isn't everyone's experience, but a lot of people, myself included, describe it as peeking behind the curtain, finding the man behind the curtain, taking a closer look at things and seeing them for what they really are. And when you take a closer look at things like religion and theism and stuff like that, for a lot of people, those things tend to start to lose their credibility. And slowly, over the course of about 7 years, I was Catholic, and then went to non-denominational Christian, to just a theist who believed in a God, not necessarily religion, to finally an atheist. All while, for the most of that, searching for God and seeking to better prepare myself to defend God's light, love, and message throughout the majority of that. So I basically followed him out the door, essentially. Did I run tag for apologetics? I don't know what that is. But there's plenty of proof that the biblical narrative is valid. Like what? Even if there is life in the universe, we probably won't find it. We probably won't. Transcendental argument for God. Yes. Let me look that up. I've heard of it. I just can't remember it. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't have a very good memory. There's a lot of different arguments to study and look up. I don't remember. What is God is not a part of the world that we know and cannot be fully grasped by human beings. This is because he is above and beyond earthly things. Maybe you can describe transcendental. Maybe you can describe it better than a bunch of quick Google searches. Oh, is that everything has to come from a better being? Dead Sea Scrolls. How do the Dead Sea Scrolls do it? People fear death experience too. They've seen God. I've witnessed and felt his presence. God is real, I promise you. How do you know that it's God? Near-death experiences. So, near-death experiences is people dying, the brain being deprived of oxygen, the person being deprived of stimulus. So the brain kind of just dreams, essentially, kind of, and just puts forth an image or a situation or a dream that usually the person would expect to see. And usually when people have near-death experiences and they have these supernatural, I saw God or whatever, it does align with what they expect to see, including like from different cultures and different religions. People will see different gods in different religions. They're not all the same. If everyone saw the exact same thing, maybe you might have something. But no, not really. It's just people expect to see things. And when the brain is going, perhaps aware that it is going, it projects those things. I'm sorry if I miss people. Some of these chats are going. I guess it didn't go. I guess only a couple of them came. I saw it move a couple times. I thought it was going too fast, but no, I got you all. How do you explain how this world is created? All the small details on how perfect some things are? Just because you can't understand something does not mean that it must have been a god. You have to prove that a god exists, prove that it can do the things you're describing, and prove that it did do the things that you're describing. Because otherwise, it's just a God of the gaps argument. Because people used to look at things like the sun rising and setting, insect swarms, natural disasters, the changing of seasons, eclipses, and think that they were something supernatural because they didn't have a better explanation for them. Now we have better, actual, credible, evidence-based, observable, testable explanations for these things that don't require supernatural things. So this whole, I don't know what it is, therefore it must be God mindset has failed us many times throughout human history. So it wouldn't make sense to continue using that. So yes, it's weird. Life is weird. The fact that life is here and that it is the way that it is really, really weird. I certainly don't have the answers. I'm not a scientist. I certainly don't. Some of the top scientists don't seem to have the answers. But much like with people who thought that the sun going down at night was some kind of act of a god, maybe it's just something we haven't explained yet. And maybe it's something we'll never be able to explain, but that does not necessarily mean that the default has to then be something supernatural. It just doesn't work that way. One day you will answer to him, and I pray you change your mind. Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. I don't know if it's forced exactly, but I'm homeschooled through a Christian curriculum. I don't like it. That sounds fun. I mean, I went to Christian school K through 12th grade. It wasn't fun, but so, I feel for you. I'm sorry if I miss anyone. Feel free to sorry if I'm missing one. Yeah, the problem with some of the prophecies that are supposedly coming true is the prophecies in the Bible. Well, there's two different types of prophecies that I see in the Bible. I call it internal and external. Internal is stuff prophesied in the Old Testament that came true in the New Testament. That's not really impressive. That's somebody writing down that something's going to happen in chapter 1, and then somebody else with knowledge of chapter 1 writing down that it happened in chapter 2. Especially when we do have some evidence that people that um, people went back and tweaked things in the Old Testament to help fit in Jesus, to help fit in prophecies about Jesus, and that the original manuscripts weren't as prophetic, weren't as, prophesying this and then this happened as one might think. But even if they were, it is still somebody writing chapter 1 and then writing chapter 2 with the knowledge of chapter 1. So those aren't really impressive. External prophecies, like end time prophecies, prophecies of what is to come, are very, very ambiguous. They're very, very open to interpretation. Like end time prophecies, there have been so many generations of people throughout the past couple thousand years who have thought that they were living in the end times, who have thought that they were the last generation. Even specific dates were being predicted. People were putting their lives on hold, not having kids, giving up their possessions, thinking that the end times would come, and they didn't. So it's the boy who cried wolf at this point. And the problem is, these prophecies are too broad and open to interpretations. So you can go back, and a lot of the Bible is like that. You can open pretty much any page of the Bible and twist whatever is said to connect to what's actually happening. And I've heard a lot of these prophecies and a lot of this stuff, and how it's, how this verse means this, it's going on. But then, like 20 years ago, this verse meant something else, and it's just not impressive, frankly. It's really just not that impressive. When people quote Bible scripture, they say word of men who use those same scripture to justify all evil, all of evil things. Yeah? A lot of evil has been used to justify the Bible, because there's a lot of evil justified in the Bible. A lot of people probably thought the end was near then. Well, Jesus seemed to say that the generation that he was speaking to wouldn't pass away until the world ended. And Paul, when he was writing, and a lot of just the early church, seemed to have this idea that the end was coming soon. Very, 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 very soon, like in their lifetimes. And then it didn't. And that created a whole different issue, and the religion needed to become more organized, to continue to survive, because it wasn't supposed to. Nothing was supposed to survive too long after Jesus was supposed to be here. So it's, World War I and II, Y2K, all this stuff. So what was I even saying? Lost my train of thought. So then, church became more organized and whatnot, and these predictions kept happening and kept not coming true, kept not happening. And we would say, this is the fulfillment of this prophecy, and then like X amount of years later, no, that wasn't. This is X amount of years later, no, those weren't the fulfillment of this prophecy. And it just keeps going down, because you can interpret so much of what's in the Bible in so many different ways. It just loses its meaning entirely sometimes. It really does. Have you had trauma in your life that has turned you away from Christianity? I usually turn towards the God that I believed in to help escape my trauma. But yeah, going back, there's some trauma about Christianity. It didn't really drive me away. Because I don't know. I'm not really my life and the way that I was treated growing up kind of put me in a I don't actually matter and my happiness doesn't matter kind of mindset. So I was never really the type of, hey, this is bad for me, therefore I'm going to leave it. If there was any harm caused to me by the church, I would say that it was my fault of not being good enough. So what really got me out of the church was just realizing the severe lack of evidence for Christianity, for theism, for all of that, and just looking at the Bible and seeing how awful the Christian God is. Those are the things that got me out of Christianity. And then looking back, I was able to analyze some of the trauma that I had sustained and realize, oh, That wasn't me. That was just messed up religious teachings. I mean, I learned epistemology. After that, I couldn't believe in Christianity anymore. Yeah. Me too. I never recognized the bad things that happened to me until later. Yeah. And also, and Heavenly Seymour, I'm not accusing you of doing this. I'm not accusing you at all of anything. But it is a common thing that Christians often say of non-believers of, oh, they just had a bad experience, or they're just angry with God, or they just wanted to go sin, or just different ways to dismiss. They were never true Christians to begin with. Just different ways to dismiss and discredit any legitimate grievances a former believer might have with Christianity, while also alleviating a believer's fear that they too could lose their faith, because they could. Because if somebody who actually had faith loses it, that means they could too, and that's a terrifying thought. It was a terrifying thought for me when I still believed. I thought I would never leave the church. I thought I would never leave God. I thought I knew that this God existed, that He had been with me through so much, and that I would never be able to leave Him. And here I am, and anyone else can do the same thing. But theists don't like thinking about that. So just that, and among other reasons, just dismiss and discredit atheists, just and former believers, to just wipe them off their plate so they don't actually have to engage with the grievances that they put forth. So because everyone is almost always wrong about everything, you decided Jesus was wrong? When did I say that? Because everyone is almost always wrong about everything, you decided Jesus was wrong? No. Smoking. Sorry, my cat stretched. Got my attention. I should probably end the live soon. It's just, I don't know. It's always like towards like the 50, 60-minute mark. Sometimes I get like more people coming in, and now we're actually having conversation and stuff. And I'm enjoying it. I don't want to leave. But I was supposed to technically end. I mean, I make the rules here. I'm just thinking about people who might want to rewatch this, or might want to watch this in the future. You know, a hour-long video won't be as daunting as an hour-and-a-half long video, or 2.5 hour long video, or whatever else have you. But you know, this is my channel. I can make these however long I want, and I can become, you know, a character from a show that I'm a company that I shouldn't mention. Haha. Sorry. I was there 500, more than 500 billion years ago, when the rocks rubbed against each other and spontaneously evolved the first evolutionist. Believe me, teach your children. I mean, Andrew, you've been kind of an honest, like, it seemed like you've actually been trying to like actually give arguments this whole time. And then you just kind of pulled that out of nowhere. That's a misconception of how it happened. So why should we believe that God said abracadabra and poof, earth and people? Read your scientific paper published in your peer-reviewed scientific journal about your scientific observations of the spontaneously evolved from rocks first evolutionist over 5 billion years ago. Okay. Just point me towards that paper. Present that paper. Heavenly Seymour, I think one of your think your first thing got deleted. Because your point begins like in the middle of a sentence, and it doesn't. I don't know like what you're talking about. I'm sure it was a complete point, but I don't know what you're talking about because the first like point or two got deleted. Just because everyone is wrong about most everything doesn't mean Jesus is wrong. I never made that argument. There are literally hundreds of pages of Bible passages coming to pass in our lifetimes. There's not. It really doesn't seem like that's the case. It's just ambiguous prophecies that have been prophesied over and over and have gotten wrong. Oh, they put messages on hold during where I'm on mobile chat. Oh, chat filter. Community wait. I don't know if I can find it. I'm on mobile. It doesn't have. Yeah, I don't think I can find it. Mobile doesn't have like all of the bells and whistles and options that the PC does, but I can't figure out how to get it to work on PC because I'm not smart enough, frankly. I'm sure you're right, and I'm sure someone who knows what they're doing would be able to find it. Someone who's not mean, who's not me. It is probably about time for me to go. Now you guys are having conversations. I don't want to cut off your conversations. I do think here I'll give my my outro, and that'll like maybe give you time to wrap up. Because it's almost an hour and a half. Thank you for everyone who joined. It's great seeing you all here. Got 6 whole likes on this. That's actually pretty good. Compared to my other lives, you know, how many I get during the actual stream. So, like, we should have a Discord server. I have one, but I'm not ready to release it to the public because I don't think I'd be able to properly moderate it. And I want it to be something properly moderated. So it's something that I really still need to think about. It's still on the drawing board, but it exists. It's just still on the drawing board. But yeah, what was I saying? Thank you for everyone for being here, for being a part of this, for tuning in, for listening to some random nobody on the internet, for engaging with me. Love engagements, love conversations, all that stuff. It is really nice. It is really cool. Because I am just a random nobody. I don't think I deserve any kind of attention. And the fact that my different platforms have grown as much as they have, I'm still not, you know, high up or anything, but like, made it further than I thought I would. And that's kind of cool. And thank you for anyone who's supported that. Anyone watching the stream or anyone who watches this later, it's appreciated. Any support. I usually do these live streams on Tuesday nights, usually sometime after like 9:30 Central Standard Time. It kind of varies, but yeah, maybe I'll see you guys in another one. Maybe you'll stick around and watch other videos. Maybe you'll go out and live your life and do whatever you want, because it's your life. Either way, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, whatever have you, and thank you for